fishing man out on the lake. All you need is a line and a pole that'll never break.
Hey there, Rednecks, Preppies, Redneck Preppies. It's me, the Redneck Preppy. How you doing today? Great? Good. A question I'm sometimes asked is, why would anyone use anything other than a spinning reel? They ostensibly do everything that an angler would require of a reel, and among their many attributes is simple and reliable operation. It's a fair question, and if you've only ever fished with a spinning reel, you've done nothing wrong. Many people fish an entire lifetime with nothing more than spinning reels and do no worse than anyone else. That said, I thought it might be instructive to go over the advantages and disadvantages of spinning and baitcaster reels for those who don't know. Now, I'm not going to discuss spin cast reels today because, and I mean no offense if you use them, they do tend to be the province of young or inexperienced anglers. If you swear by them, cool. I still harbor a great deal of affection for the legendary Zebco 33. That said, let's begin with the spinning reel. So named because, brace yourself, of the spinning line roller and bail. Who knew? Spinning reels have plenty of advantages when it comes to fishing. Some of them I think are fairly obvious. They tend to be less expensive than baitcaster reels. They're dead easy to use. You can use them for a wide variety of presentations, including light lures. Finally, there isn't much in the way of maintenance. I've got a video on the channel which shows you how I maintain mine. But with pros come cons. Compared to baitcasters, they aren't as accurate when casting, and they don't do as well with heavy lures. And heavy lures generally, and hopefully, means heavy fish. Another thing that they aren't as well suited for. Now, before someone comments down below, yes, I know there are heavy-duty spinning reels like you see in saltwater fishing. I'm talking more about the reels you'd find in freshwater fishing. I tend to use spinning reels in certain applications, primarily lures or presentations that I'm not casting. So that means things like jigs and finesse presentations, particularly when they're vertical like drop shotting or using wacky rigs. As spinning reels are good with light and ultralight lures, at least compared to baitcasters, I will occasionally use them for casting a lure, such as when I'm using a spy bait or some kind of small lure like a micro crankbait or micro spoon. Ultimately, although spinning reels are better at some things and worse at others, they're decent enough at everything that you could use spinning reels as a one-size-fits-all option. I've certainly gone out and used spinning reels exclusively during fishing trips and somehow managed to survive the day. However, just like you can take a tractor to go to the corner store for milk, they aren't always the best choice for what you want to do, even if they do get the job done. That leads me to baitcasters. And no, I don't know why they're called baitcasters outside of the obvious, but there are two primary types. There's the low-profile version, which you usually see on freshwater lakes, and the round version, often used in saltwater or heavy-duty fishing. That said, no hard and fast rules. I've seen both kinds used in either fishing. You can take several of the pros and cons of spinning reels and basically reverse them for baitcasters. You can generally cast longer distances with a baitcaster and do it with higher accuracy. The latter important when you're trying to hit just that right spot in cover or structure where you suspect that the fish are. They're good with heavier lures. They're lighter than spinning reels, and they tend to hold more line. They also have the power needed for high drag lures like spinner baits, buzz baits, and crankbaits. The cons, though, are notable, particularly for new anglers. They require a good amount of hand-eye coordination, or otherwise you will find out how much of a pain backlashes can be. The good news is, at the beginning, you'll have plenty of practice in learning how to clear them. I'll say right now, don't believe the claims of anti-backlash technology that companies brag about baking into their reels. They also require spool tension knob adjustment in between lure changes, and they're also more expensive than spinning reels. Now, I tend to use Baitcasters for most presentations which require casting lures. With presentations like frogging or chunky crankbaits, they're ideal, but just dandy with jerk baits and slash baits, among many other casting lures as well. And they tend to do better with heavier fish, thanks to generally being more powerful than spinning reels. I'm also more comfortable casting lures into heavy cover with a Baitcaster, so that I know if I drag back more cover than fish, the reel shouldn't have too much of a problem. I don't use Baitcasters at all for vertical or finesse presentations. I know people who do, but to me it seems like trying to squeeze that proverbial square peg into a round hole. Once you get experience with Baitcasters, you can literally cast a lure a very long distance and drop it into the area of the size of a coffee cup. And if you time it right, it can enter the water with almost no splash, meaning that the fish around aren't going to get spooked. Much of that magic is due to properly adjusting the spool tension knob and magnetic drag to match your ability and the weight of the lure, and the use of your thumb to slow down and stop the flight of the lure. So which should you use? I'd say once you're more experienced or want to expand your capabilities, I'd seriously consider adding a Baitcaster to your arsenal. They have potent advantages over spinning reels that can make a difference on the water. But use them both. As I've outlined, and this video is admittedly a fairly high-level view at this topic, they both have their advantages and disadvantages. Yes, there are some high-level anglers and those who fancy themselves as such who believe that using anything other than a Baitcaster is amateur hour. But virtually every professional angler whose paycheck depends on specialties that include finesse fishing uses spinning reels. Remember as well that your rod and reel setup, the technique that you're using, and the type of line should all generally match. So, to use the example of finesse fishing, you should be using a sensitive rod, a lighter spinning reel, braided line with a fluorocarbon leader. And that's a great choice for things like drop shotting, wacky rigs, shaky heads, and tubes. Now, before I get added in the comments section, nothing that I've said today is underlined with religious certainty. If you want to cast lures with a spinning reel, have at her. If you're comfortable using a Baitcaster to fish a vertical presentation, super. The world's not going to change for the better one way or another. At any rate, I hope you found today's video to be vaguely entertaining and mildly informative. As always, I hope your lines are always tight, regardless of what kind of reel you use. Take care, and bye-bye.